Hello, hello, hello. Been a little bit, I think actually it was just yesterday. Um I, as promised, am going to finish up this Trent Horn v. Destiny debate on abortion. So that is the plan for today. Nothing else beyond that because I do have a flight at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I probably have to leave here around maybe 3 or 4 a.m. And then I'm going to be heading to my mom's house. I will bring the laptop and maybe try to do a bit of streaming there, but it's tough telling when you're going to somebody else's house how good the internet's going to be or if I can set up cameras and stuff. And so we'll see how that goes. But that's the plan for today. We are, of course, opening up on Twitch. However, we will be switching back over to YouTube. If you're watching this as a VOD, don't worry at all. We'll get started lickety split because I do need to get going and, finish this thing up. Doing this mainly for the VOD watchers. I don't know if this is an optimum time for stream viewers to come on or whatever, but I want to get this out of the way and crossed off my to-do list before I take off. So that is the plan for today. Again, if you are on Twitch, consider moving over to YouTube or Kick because once we start playing the video, I will not be able to continue there because Steven is banned. So ripperino. I'm gonna go grab my laptop real quick and plug in my other monitor, and we will be ready in a jiff. Here, I'll just let you guys watch me do that, I suppose. Um, okay, 2 seconds. Let's see. Hello there. Let's get you going, and we'll get the monitor over here. Yeah, it would be nice to be able to see you guys while we do this one. So, setting that up. Let's see that side. Whoops. And then I need my little USB-C cable. Where is it? Where could it be? This cable bit. I don't see. Okay. Oh, poke me in the eye. All right. All right. Cool. Hello. Hello. We'll drag this on over. Oh. Oh, we want that Bluetooth probably on. Uh, why? I hate the way Macs work. I'll be honest with you. And then I guess we have to make it big there. Close this. Of course. Now it disappeared my thing. That's great. You love to see it. Yeah. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Just setting up my mouse and stuff. We will be going in a second here. I'm also giving Twitch people the chance to kind of roll in so that they know what's going on. They know to hop over to YouTube or Kick, whichever they prefer. Good stuff. And then open this. Why? That's so annoying. It disappears when I close the thing. I bet it's because it's full screen or whatever. We'll do that. And yeah, I know it's late, but I have to find something to do to keep my mind busy because I'm probably just gonna stay up until like 4 when I have to leave for my flight. And you know, I do have this item on my to-do list to finish up this stream, so there's worse things to do. Honestly, I feel like I'm mostly doing this for the VOD people. So if you can't make it to this, that's totally fine. Just hang out for the VOD thing and you should be good. Okay, so looks like everything is working. Um, cool. We'll open this on the side and then My hair looks awful. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Okay. And we'll switch scenes here. Boogie, I thought you quit streaming. Haven't seen you on YouTube in a minute. Well, I've been back. Go check the live broadcasts and stuff. I've been doing it a little bit here and there. I'll also get this light going. It makes things look a little bit better, I think. Cool. Oh wait. Well, he's not on the screen. So this is the final call for all the Twitch people. Move on over to YouTube. You should be able to get that by doing ! YouTube, or just, go on YouTube and look up Booksmarts and I'll come up. I will see you guys there. Alternatively, if you're a Kick person, if Destiny's kind of converted you to that, or you prefer it for some reason, feel free to go over there. And I got to go ahead and close out our stream on Twitch, unfortunately. Bloop. There we go. Now it's just the real ones. All my YouTubers in the chat. Yeah, apologize exclusively to me, a VOD enjoyer, Giga Chat. Yeah, I will. And also, I've downloaded the last VOD, and then I will download this VOD before I leave. And then I figure maybe when I'm on the airplane, or like I'm waiting at the airport, I'm going to try to do a little bit of editing. It won't be as good as like when Tack edits something, but I'll do a little bit of editing and maybe recording, and I'll do like a short TLDR version of this. I'll probably have to record it at the end or something, but I'll review all the footage and I'll put my little highlights, and then I'll kind of synthesize the information that I had and have fun with that while I'm at the airport, and try to turn that into something useful for you guys. So look forward to that. I'm not saying it's going to drop in like the next 24 hours or whatever. I don't know how much I'll get done at the airport, but I figure that'll be something to keep me entertained while I'm there. Recording on the plane, lol. That would be hilarious. The whole thing is just recorded on the plane, or I get the opinions of the dude sitting next to me. But no, I'll probably take the VODs, cut them down. Yeah. Although, if I do want to record like a standalone thing, and I feel like it's necessary because I can't make everything with the clips, then I'll probably just record it when I'm at my mom's house. And yeah. Also, I guess a little bit of a shout out. If any of you live in Arkansas, okay, if any of you live in Arkansas or want to hang out in Arkansas, hit me up on Discord. I will be there for like the next week, because that's kind of how flights worked out and what was cheap on short notice. I literally bought my flight today, and I'm going to be leaving tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning. So, that's the plan. But yeah, so just the loud, high-pitched whine all over the recording, maybe a baby crying. Yeah. You don't hear anything, right? That's just a hypothetical? Okay. My audio levels look good. Okay. I think this is where we left off. I think. Let me go check the VOD real quick. I know I just downloaded it. Probably not smart to go into my downloads folder, but hello? Okay, we got to 140 something. Okay, we did this long call, and then I called it maybe here. Look at you flamboyantly throwing your hands. Yeah, I think that's my cutoff, because I'm hungry. 150. I'm probably not gonna interpret this. Okay, maybe more like 150 something. Which looks like it's about accurate. I think we should be good here. No, the joke was more towards the plane recording. Gotcha. All right, let's do it. I'm ready to go.
It's pretty amazing, but that doesn't mean that it's not a biological human being, and it doesn't mean that it has less value than you or I have just because it has much more developing it needs to do.
Sure, I just don't think that a single cell organism is more different than a sperm or an egg than it is similar to a 50-year-old developed person.
And I think we both agree, at least scientifically, they're very different. It belongs to a different biological category than sperm or egg. Sperm and egg are body parts, they're gametes. An embryo is a human organism. And so when we talk about whether persons or rights need to be given, we don't even talk about whether tissue has human rights. We only.
Hold on. I do want to have my notes on the screen. So Let me figure out how I want to do that here. I think I used like a different scene when I did this last time. Um, that should actually be higher on my to-do than editing some YouTube video. Is I should probably fix all my OBS scenes at the airport. But okay, I think this is not what we want. We want this one. Let's see here. Oh man, imagine Book doing one of his casting couch recordings while on a plane. Yeah, that would be a little bit weird. A little bit weird, champ. Fuck man. There definitely was some scene I had for this. Let's see. Do. IRL, Angles, Minecraft, Endless, Overwatch, League 2. I bet it's like League 3 2 or something. Something very silly. Maybe this scene 2 thing? No, this was what we were doing. Man, that sucks. I have no idea what I used. All of these look awful. Let me see. Let's do. Man, am I gonna have to make a whole other scene again, bro? Yo, jit tripping, bruh. I think I might have to. Boy, how I don't want to do that. I cannot explain to you how little I want to do that. Whatever. You know what? That's what you guys are in it for. It'll give people time to come to their senses and join the stream as well, maybe. Or I'll just lose all of you. Either way, I guess I don't really care. Okay, add existing. We're going to have webcam. Okay. Hello. You'll be able to look at me while I figure this out. So I need a webcam. What else do I need? I also need my notes. So I'm going to do a window capture. And then I'll call this Notion because that's where my notes are. This name is already in use. Well, isn't that lovely? Then I'll just find it on the list. So Notion. Okay. Nice. Notion is not there. That's cool. We'll do this. Okay. And then we'll reduce this down by cutting on the sides. So if you are a Twitch streamer, you can use Control Shift Alt, and that'll let you close in the sides here. And we'll close it down to about there. And then we'll close maybe the bottom bit of it, but for now, let's kind of just tuck it to the side so we have it there. And then we're also going to want to add in a source for our video, which I think should be Chrome. And it's not Chrome. That's lovely, but we can fix that. That's not a big deal. Not that one. This one. Okay, lovely. And then we'll cut down the sides so we don't see the scroll bar. And then we'll cut down the top because you don't need to see all of that. And then we have to cut down the bottom. Unfortunately, we can't have the title in the same spot because they put this like disclaimer about what abortion is or whatever as like a safeguard on this video. We'll try to tuck maybe that there. If you're a trans, you're probably familiar with the concept. Okay. Anywho, let's stop with the transphobia. Let's pull this like this, and we'll put this here, and then we'll expand her. Loop, just like that. Sorry, guys. Oh shit. Okay, and then I need my chat. So browser scene and add existing, and we're gonna need our chat box. Bloop, just like that. And then we'll cut you guys down a little bit. We'll put you right here with me. That's nice. And we'll cut you down just like that. And then I'm also going to need my whiteboard, which is a whole other scene. In case you didn't know, in OBS, you could do nested scenes. That way you'll change this one thing and it'll change it across all of the different scenes that you have. So like in my case, like this is made up of like 3 different parts. There's the part that is the white text. There's the part that is the yellow or green text. I don't know because I'm colorblind. There's the heart. There's the background that is the whiteboard. So because I'm tucked as fuck. Well, that's hot. because there's so many different sources, it's better to just make them all into a scene and then nest that scene in different places as opposed to doing it a different way. Now, I also need an alert box, which is another browser source. And I'm sure this isn't interesting for you guys to listen to, but I am just trying to fill air here. And that alert box we will put right on top of the notes because, you know, that seems convenient. And then, yeah, okay, so we have all that. I could add a little background. I probably will. Let me go check what the background source name is on this one. It is called background. Oh, wow. Past me. Very clever. Okay, so it is going to be an image and it is by the name of background. So let me find that. Boom. And then we'll go ahead and set this to the back. Bada bing. Bada boom. Shit's looking pretty, huh? And now I'm also going to add a color. And we're going to, I think the color's name is black. So add existing black. Great. And this is for the opacity kind of correction on the back of our dingle hopper, on the back of our, what do you call it? The chat box. It helps with things being a little bit easier to see for you guys. So that's a little quality of life tip for you. If you're a streamer, most of you are probably not, so it is irrelevant to you, but there we are. Okay. That looks terrible. Let's go ahead and crop that in to the back of this thing. Just like this. Cool. And then we'll crop the top of it again, just like that. Wonderful. That looks okay. Why you say it like that? Say what, like what? Tuck? Tucking? Or are you saying black? I don't know. The word kind of calls for it. I'm surprised you didn't nest your camera and all that. You know what? You got a good point. It is nested. It does have a nested thing. If I go to my YouTube thing, let me see what it's called. It is called Camera 5. Very intuitive. Okay. Let's grab Camera 5 then, and we'll try to do that. May as well make this something that I can use in the future. So Camera 5. I have so many cameras. I don't know why. We'll go ahead and delete this. Delete you. Remove. I also, because my internet here is God tier, I'm talking like gigabit connection, I also need to at some point up the quality that I'm streaming at, but you know, alas, I probably won't do that anytime soon. Okay, and we'll just put this here like that. Boom. And yeah, maybe I should pull up the Notion a little bit and crop it a little bit better. Like that, maybe. Right about there. Cool. And then I just have to remember that I don't have the bottom of my Notion document, which is handy to know. There we go. Okay. I'm ready. I'm going to go back 5 minutes to kind of catch up on whatever this little dialogue tree is. I'll actually go to this scene marker here for what is an organism, and we'll kind of start from there, hey?
Cell organism is of a...
existed 9 months prior to the birth as well. And
sure, and I understand what you're saying. I'm just...
You're at 1080. Twitch doesn't support much higher, if at all, last I checked. I think it's a bitrate thing. So it is probably at 1080. However, I think that there's a bitrate change that needs to be made because I think my bitrate is still set up for like foreign internet, and I should probably change that a little bit. But yeah, it's probably a very tiny difference, if any at all.
Saying that ontologically what your position demands is that you believe that a single cell organism is of a kind that is similar to a 99-year-old human being, and that those things belong to the same category, but the single cell organism is entirely different from a sperm or an egg.
Are they both human? Is the zygote and the 99-year-old, are they both human organisms?
Definitely.
Hold on, I'm gonna do one quality of life thing. I'm going to take my OBS window and shrink it really small, and then this will be my little divider so that I know how far I have to go. So I have yes, keep alive. Oh, okay. I have a ton of space, actually. I probably don't have to worry about it at all. Are you back in the States? Yes, I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, baby. It's great. It's not so great when it's hot, which it has been for a while, but I feel like we're at the end of a curve and I see the downward angle of it, because like it used to be like it will get up to like 87 inside. And I've noticed it's been going back to like 82. I think this morning it was like 80 degrees when I woke up. I'm of the opinion, and other people aren't, as I learned when I had guests over. I'm of the opinion that when you're unconscious, you probably don't need the AC. Like, I'll turn the AC on, but if it's going at night, I hear it like it's blowing through the vent and it's kind of whistling a little bit. Like, it bugs the fuck out of me. So that's one good reason to turn it off. But the other one is like, if I'm unconscious, the whole thing can heat up. Like, I used to live in a fucking van. You have to imagine, I lived in a van with no vents or holes. It's just like a pedo van with no windows. And I would go to sleep, and by the time I would wake up, some mixture of like CO2 levels and the heat of the sun, by the time I wake up at like 10 or 11, it's almost suffocatingly warm. Like I'm in an oven. And so like at the peak of like our heat in Vegas, it did start feeling like waking up in the van every morning, but then you turn the AC on and you're good. So I let things cook while I sleep. And then when I'm not unconscious anymore, I'll turn stuff back on. Oh no, why would you call it that? Call what? Hotbox yourself? Nice. Yeah. Nice to see you streaming, but glad you got that spot in Nevada, close enough to pop down to Burning Man on a lark. Yeah, I mean, if I ever get to that point, I really should reach out to you and try to like do stuff roadsteading. Now here's a tricky thing. I don't have a job yet. So I will say, if you want to support this content, you want more debate reviews, whatever, I am going to go back to just asking for money. If you'd like to support the stream, that's really, really cool of you. I'm going to try to like set up a schedule so that I'm a little bit better at like putting these notes and stuff on Patreon, or maybe giving you guys extra stuff there as well. But yeah, if you know, I know it's a lot to ask because I've been gone so long, and who knows if I'm gonna keep up the content for you guys and whatever. I don't know if I've like earned the right to be asking for stuff, but I hope this is at a similar quality to like what it used to be for you guys and what you're looking for. And I'm probably like the only person offering you this with all the notes and stuff. I don't see anybody else doing that. So if you'd like to support the content, that's really helpful. Like I just dropped, I think close to like $400 on this ticket. In case you didn't know, I'll be going to my mom's house for like a week in Arkansas. And that's because our dog is dying, unfortunately. Now, granted, he's 15 years old. So we got a lot of mileage out of that little pupper. But, you know, he has a heart thing and he pants. And I guess he like stares off into space now. And he's just kind of like not well and not all there. So we're probably going to have to put him down after a vet visit this week. And my mom is kind of like crying and stuff because my little sister is going off to college. She's going to be alone now. And I figured I should probably be there to see him go. All of my other dogs, like we had 3 growing up, all of them died when I was like on vacation or like I was out of the country. Like one of them took a tumble down the stairs when she was like running to go outside, and she broke her fucking neck and just like convulsed and died like right there. So that was sudden, obviously. The other one would fight with the other dogs, and so it had to be put down after like a particularly bad fight where I guess she bit one of us trying to break it up. So that was another like, oh, I wasn't there for that. So I figure, you know, even if it's on a credit card or whatever, I'll pay for the flight. I'll go do that. And you know, go see my dog, because I actually have the opportunity to do that, and I would feel really bad if I didn't, and you know, support my mom and whatever. So could this guy be any more soft? Oh, I probably could. You missed the whole trans joke. Lots of folks reporting animal deaths in the incredible heat around the Gulf. Just a ton of impact on all the creatures, great and small. Yeah, it's probably not good. But yeah, so anywho, let us continue with the content. Enough of that crybaby stuff, because yeah, I don't want to be too soft for my YouTube audience, of course. All right, so it looks like where we picked off, or where we're picking up at, if PVS is not waking up, do you care for them? We're kind of at a new point now. Oh, interesting. I need to pin OBS to the top. Hold on. Where is my pinning program? I can recommend this pinning program. It's called, where is it? I think it's called Turbo Top. which is what I am, of course. You know, very masculine. No, it's called desk pins. Desk pins, not turbo top. Very free, and I love that about programs. And here I thought the soft comment was about Book's current training arc. Lol. You know what though? I did work out today. My ass hurts, dude. I was doing those glute bridge things. If you know what that is, you kind of like lay like you're about to do like sit-ups or curl-ups or whatever you call them, where you're like working out your abs. And instead of doing that, you just thrust your whole pelvis into the air. And I guess you clamp your ass. And that hurt. The other thing that hurts, like being a big guy, like it wasn't too long ago that I was over like 310 pounds. You know, when I do squats and stuff, that's a lot of weight for my poor baby legs. And they definitely didn't like that. So I'm super sore. It's probably going to get worse tomorrow because I'm not going to get good sleep. I get on this flight and I don't think I get to Arkansas until like 11 a.m. And so that's going to be rough. Those are fake, Bookie. That exercise doesn't exist. Interesting. Well, I was doing it today. Granted, I don't feel like I felt it in my ass until like afterwards. Like I kind of felt the tightening a little bit, but like it was when I got up and I started sitting down that I was like, oh, that mixed with my quads fucking burning sucked. But I'm only doing 2 times a week. Shout out to Irrelevant and to Nick, who is Erudite's husband. They helped me with the fitness program, and then to Mushroom in the Discord. He was also helpful. I'm lucky to have so many supportive people in my life. And that's part of why I want to go back to streaming, is like you develop a network of people that are just kind of looking out for your best interests. Granted, there's a lot of people that don't, but you know, I like that. And I feel like I'm very privileged. Like a lot of people go live and they're lucky to get one person, you know, watching their thing, let alone a chat full of people. So, yeah, I don't know. What's up, frijoles quemados? I don't know what that means. Hopefully that's not anything bad.
Definitionally so.
So they are the same.
But I mean, a corpse is also a human organism.
They are no, that's not true.
It is. Of course it is. What do you mean?
What is a human organism?
I don't know. We can bring up the dictionary if we want, but...
And I would say an organism is a collection of parts that work together for the good of the whole. A corpse no longer has that property.
Okay, but I mean, neither does a single-cell organism. It can't work to do anything absent
how does it grow in the womb?
By getting nutrients from the mother.
What is quemados? Oh, what the fuck? ¿Qué se hace en quemados? What is quemados? Quemados de primer grado. Ay, ay, ay. ¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué es eso? Ay, güey. What is your name? That doesn't look good. Burned one? So your name is Burn Frijoles? That's kind of interesting. Blue hair guy is a small brain. You better be careful, Roy. You're going to get bonked, dude. Burnt beans, stop this. How tall are you? You never look close to 300. I'm 6 foot. You know what? The number one comment that I feel like I get from random people who recognize me in public is like, oh, you look different than on your stream. And then I always joke that it's about the weight, but I don't get a response that kind of negates that. So yeah, I mean, I play with the camera angle. Like the camera is probably like 6 inches above my head the way that it is. And that's a more flattering angle for me. I think Chris Broad talks about this, the Japan YouTuber dude.
Probably doing more at that point.
But that's the same as you and I. When we go to In-N-Out and we eat food, we got to do that to keep growing and developing. It doesn't have to be In-N-Out, but we need nutrients and environment to continue developing also.
Yeah, but I think there's a bit of a difference. When I eat a cheeseburger, my body doesn't become a cheeseburger, but a single-cell organism is literally one single cell. The nutrients coming in from the mother more than even the sum of everything existing.
It doesn't turn into sugar or glucose. It creates new cells and it creates new elements of its organism.
Yeah, out of the nutrients that are coming in, but there's more, for a single-cell organism, there's more nutrients being pumped into it than there even is an organism.
Right. It's pretty amazing. But that doesn't mean that it's not a biological human being, and it doesn't mean that it has less value.
That is kind of an interesting benchmark, that it is more of like the ratio to nutrients to organism is different, but they're probably not going to engage on it.
Than you or I have, just because it goes has much more developing it needs to do.
Sure, I just don't think that a single cell organism is more different than a sperm or an egg than it is similar to a 50-year-old developed person.
And I think we both agree, at least scientifically, they're very different. It belongs to a different biological category than sperm or egg. Sperm and egg are body parts, they're gametes. An embryo is a human organism.
All right, VOD people, I'm 1.2ing. Sorry.
And so when we talk about whether persons or rights need to be given, we don't even talk about whether tissue has human rights. We only talk about whether human organisms do.
I guess using your definition of organism, but I still think we talk, because even if you're talking about rights, if we look at people that are brain dead or people in persistent vegetative states, legally they're afforded different rights than people who are fully conscious of their surroundings, right? Well, like it would never be legal to kill a person or deprive a person of food that's like a normal thinking, ordinary conscious human being. But it would be for people in PVS or people who are brain dead.
Well, no,
right?
people debate about whether food that is given to someone in a persistent vegetative state is medicine or whether it's food. I think that people will try to define being permanently unconscious as death instead of disability. And honestly, many people who are disabled notice this in trying to redefine disability so we don't have to care for those who are disabled.
Okay, I think that's a fundamentally different argument, but...
No, because there is a dispute. Many people will care for those who are in persistent vegetative states. And also, the question that they'll never come out of it is, I'm willing to entertain the hypothetical, but it's a hypothetical. You have people like Martin Pistorius, for example. You ever heard of him? Nope. He was 12 years old, South African. He ended up in a persistent vegetative state. It's a great story. You should read it. It's very inspiring. He has a book called Ghost Boy. He was in a persistent vegetative state, maybe from meningitis. And they're like, what do we do with him? So they fed him, took him to a home where he was cared for. By the time he was about 15, he became conscious again, but he was locked in. Couldn't communicate with anybody. So they didn't care about him at the group home. So they just sat him in front of the TV and he watched reruns of Barney every day. And he thought he was going to go mad. But he decided, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to will to do something to get attention to myself. And eventually he restored some motor skills, came out of his persistent vegetative state. And now he races wheelchairs. He's a web developer and he's married.
Also, to respond to you in the chat, if Twin Fetus eats the other one, I don't know how common that is, but if that does happen, we have a sliding scale of agency that we give to humans in law, and I feel like that's a pretty well-established thing. Kids are tried differently than adults, and a young kid is probably tried very differently from a teen or a post-pubescent kid, and that's treated differently than a 16-year-old. So I'd imagine it would work something like that. You definitely wouldn't try a newborn baby for killing the mom or something like that. I think it's probably an agency thing. It's kind of a silly bit.
So part of the thing when it comes to caring for those in persistent vegetative states, while yes, some people never come out of it, some do. And the prognosis maybe is 2 to 5 years. Someone lasting more than a decade is very, very rare. So we care for these people because we're not sure what's going to happen to them. It's completely different from a brain dead person.
Yeah, but I agree with everything you just said. But I think that last sentence just...
And that last comment that you did is going to get you muted in my chat. Congratulations, Roy. You're blocked on YouTube. You can go ahead and email me, booksmarts.twitch@gmail.com, if you want to get, unbanned, but you're going to have to come back with a different attitude, brother, because you're kind of just distracting.
Illustrate my point completely.
What do you mean?
We care for those people because we don't know what's going to happen with them. The question is whether or not they're going to wake up. It's whether or not they're going to...
I should have rephrased that.
Okay. Because we don't care about them in their current state. It's only based on if they're going to become awake again in that future state.
No, because my view would be even if they didn't ever return from that state, I would say that there is a difference there, that they are not foregone like a brain dead individual who is now decomposing. We don't give them medical care anymore. We might keep their body alive to harvest their organs.
Sure. I'm just saying there's a reason why you gave me the story of a boy that woke up and not the inspiring story of somebody that lived in a persistent vegetative state for 30 years and then died.
Well, so it could be inspiring that you care for this individual and that you don't want to starve them to death. You don't want to actively kill them.
It could be, but we were leaning on intuitions pretty heavily, and it's pretty telling that those stories don't typically exist. But usually we like the people that wake up.
But we have to be careful because I feel like the intuition here is, I wouldn't want to live in that state, or we think that life is not worth living in a persistent vegetative state. We could easily reach that intuition for locked in, for quadriplegics. A lot of people make those similar intuitions, and I would be very reticent to move that into saying, oh, well, we only care for disabled people if we think their lives are worth living. That's a dangerous road to go down.
No, it's not. We do studies. Even people with locked-in syndrome generally report decent quality of life. We can do empirical analysis on these people. We can do studies, case studies, broad longitudinal studies. People tend to adjust to their level and have a decent quality of life.
But some people do want to die, right?
And if you want to die, you should probably have that option. But there's a difference between somebody wanting to die versus saying we ought to kill everybody with this type of experience.
But do we do this? Some people who want to die, we say, That's not a good enough reason. I know your girlfriend left you, but that's not a good enough reason. Oh, you have bone cancer or something like that. Or even you're locked in and you don't want to live. Fine. We make judgments there about you're giving me a good reason and you're not. I think that's a dangerous road to go down, to decide whose reason is good enough to help them out of suicide and whose reason is good enough to help them into it.
Okay. I would disagree. I would say it's a really dangerous road to compel people to live for the happiness of others around them.
I don't believe we should compel people. I think
that's what you're saying is compelling somebody to live. If you're saying that you're not allowed to take your life, you're depriving them of arguably one of the most fundamental negative rights.
I'm saying doctors shouldn't kill people. I'm saying,
oh Jesus, we've managed to go down a really, like, now we're talking about euthanasia, and I don't feel like we're really explicitly talking about that. Does this get back on track at some point?
Doctors shouldn't be killers.
Sure. Should a person be allowed to kill themselves?
They should be allowed to refuse disproportionate care.
Should they be allowed to jump off a building or a bridge?
No.
So they shouldn't be allowed to kill themselves?
No, they shouldn't be allowed. No, they should not. Do you think they should be? Do you think people should be allowed to kill themselves?
Yeah, I think depending on the circumstances, yes.
Should they be allowed to kill themselves for any reason?
For any reason? Probably
yeah, they don't
not.
want to live.
Probably not.
Why?
Because I think that oftentimes the desire to kill yourself without a good stated reason is probably more evidence of some sort of mental problem that should probably be alleviated before the person can make that decision. So it'd be an issue of, we would argue from an informed consent perspective, that you're not capable of making this decision because you're in a mentally compromised state. But if you take somebody who's 75, they've got stage 4 lung cancer, they've got 6 to 12 months ahead of them, they know it's going to be an excruciating experience, and they don't have a desire to live anymore, do you think that person should be deprived of the right to kill themselves, jump off a building, jump off a bridge? Because that's in your world, they would have to do that because the doctors can't help them.
I don't make judgments that, oh yeah, you have a good reason to kill yourself, because then what about the quadriplegic who says, so you're a 75-year-old with cancer, what about the 20-year-old who will never move their arms and legs again and says, I can't live like this for my whole life? Should they just be allowed to roll themselves into the pool?
I think that there is plenty of research that shows that people that are even quadriplegics live healthy,
what if they say,
lives.
Screw your research, I don't want to live this way?
If they, then I think it's more likely that there's something unhealthy with them, so they shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Why can't we say that for the 75-year-old? You know
because
what?
I think that for 75-year-olds, we do know the prognosis with stage 4 lung cancer at certain stages, and we could say it is going to be bad, and you are going to die with 6 to 12 months.
Right, but if anything, so you're saying that...
I'm saying that a person who's 75 with that cancer...
someone should be allowed to kill themselves so they don't have to go through 6 months of agony.
Yep.
But a quadriplegic who might go through 60 years of agony, no go.
Because at the end of the day, I'm making an empirical reference. I can say if we look at the pool of people that are quadriplegic at this age, 99% of them live and have decently happy, fulfilling lives.
So you're saying people don't really have a right to make autonomous medical choices. They only have the right to do what you think the research says.
No, they have the right to make a decision, but whether or not the decision is informed or not is important. Just like we would say a 12-year-old doesn't have the right to make certain decisions because we don't think their consent is informed, right? We would say the same for a 20-year-old that wants to kill themselves because they might be disabled. Probably isn't the same as a 75-year-old who does have all the information, who wants to make that same decision. Right. But in your world, you're saying a 75-year-old with stage 4 cancer is not allowed to kill themselves.
I am saying that I don't make distinctions about who has a good enough reason to kill themselves and who doesn't. I help anyone who is suicidal to not be suicidal. Now, if you have an 85-year-old who's...
Why'd they get 10 years older?
Does 75. Fine,
okay.
A 75-year-old who is...
This is an REI water bottle.
...experiencing organ failure and they don't want to do dialysis because it might give them a few more months and it's expensive and painful. No, they might not do dialysis. Or you have someone who is very, very elderly and says, you know what, if I go into cardiac arrest, don't give me CPR. That I think that could be understandable.
All of your examples are very easy ways out. Sometimes people are going to die in ways that aren't going to be quick. It's going to be 6 months.
Right.
So for a person that's going to die in 6 months, are you saying you're compelled to suffer for that entire 6 months? Or
it's fine to well, we're getting away from the topic.
No, hold on. You keep saying that. Okay, I'm going to force you to answer this question.
I'll answer it, but
you're not answering it though. You keep aggravating, mitigating circumstances, and then you try to change something else.
I will answer the question, but you'll agree euthanasia is a different topic.
I will also mark this just so that I know, because he complains a lot about people not answering hypotheticals. This is we'll put this at 204.
Topic than abortion.
Well, yeah, of course.
Let's have Trent.
I'll answer.
I just want to answer this question. Yeah.
The answer is I don't think doctors should kill people, especially when that is an option for doctors to do. It becomes tempting for that to be the prescribed course of treatment instead of more expensive things to keep somebody alive. However, I do think that you could administer medication and pain medication to ease someone's suffering, even if it has a secondary effect of shortening their lifespan.
Okay, so you would say a 75-year-old who has the prognosis is 6 months of suffering, he's not allowed to terminate his life.
I don't think we should kill people who are suicidal.
Why can't you just... I don't know why you can't answer that question.
Because it's a...
I'm not talking about people that are suicidal. I'm saying not allowed to terminate his life.
I don't think we should kill people who are suicidal.
Why can't you just... I don't know why you can't answer that question.
Because it's a...
I'm not talking about people that are suicidal. I'm saying...
He doesn't want to live.
Because his prognosis is 6 months of suffering. So people with a prognosis of 6 months of suffering and then dying, they're not allowed to terminate their life early. You would deprive them of that right.
I believe... I would like to answer the question, and it will sufficiently answer what you're asking me in the way that I am most comfortable.
Okay.
If someone wants to commit suicide, they don't want to live because life has too much suffering for them.
Okay.
This person wants to die. They want to kill themselves because of too much suffering, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I am not in the business of saying who has not too much suffering or not enough suffering. In many cases, those who would kill themselves, it's not because of physical pain. It's because of loss of dignity. That's fine. So my point is, because then there's no stopping point. 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, 10 years. There's no principled place to stop the gap.
But you can't say that I'm not in the business of, because you're in the business of saying none of you can make that decision.
Right. I want to treat all humans equally. So anyone who is suicidal, their life has value. I'm going to help them out of a destructive decision.
Well, when you say their life has value,
yes,
but they're not the ones who decide when it has value or not. You're deciding that for them.
No, I say every human being has intrinsic value.
Yeah,
every
but if they're saying part of the value of my life is I should get to decide when I want to go, I want to leave on my terms, but you're saying no, I'm going to decide for you. You can't do that. You don't have that right.
I'm going to say we both do that, because you're doing that with your research gambit to say no. You, with your reason, if it's anything that's not 6 months left to live of a terminal illness, it turns out you don't have, the research shows you don't have a good enough reason.
Do you think he looks good when he insists for an answer? I do. I don't have a problem with it in this part. And in the last VOD, I talked about that here with the hypothetical. I do. I think it's definitely like a case by case. Like if you look at, and I hate to shit on him, but like it is a problem with how Pisco argues. Like if you compare this to like how Pisco argues, where he will fight for this tooth and nail on every single question, even if by the framing of the question it's clear that he's like trying to make somebody look bad, or it's a ridiculous like thing to have to answer or whatever, or you know, people could have a myriad of problems with the question. They could ask you to reframe it or this or that. Like I think Pisco kind of overdoes it, and it doesn't work for him a lot of the time. But I think given the context of this entire conversation, it's fine. Like if you look at all of this, from moral facts all the way to obligation to end life, like all of this is he was the professor was controlling the conversation for all of this. In the Destiny guided part, like started, you know, maybe an hour and change in. So, you know, I feel like when he's in control of the conversation and guiding it and stuff, I do think that's fair. He did answer everything that Trent posed to him. So I feel like he's earned it in a way that may not apply to every single conversation, but for this one in particular, yeah.
Both of us are doing that. I'm just applying it to every single human being. You're trying to apply it to just a few, and there's no way you're able to really do that with a consistent framework.
If you want, we can dive into that. I can give you super clear criteria, but
let's do a couple chats here. So we have Bender the Offender. Hey, thank you, man, for the super chat. On the topic of consciousness, it is important to remember that.
And yeah, there was more enthusiasm for continuing this based on the comments, yeah.
It is still not fully understood past its basic definition of awareness of internal and external existence. Consciousness is still very complex, as we have a motorcycle going by. Thank you, Bender the Offender. And I don't know if any of you guys have a response to that, but
yeah, I mean, obviously I agree.
Just a statement.
I think the brain is still like the most complicated, understood.
And we're going to have another timeout. Let's try to just stay on topic and not be... You know, it's fine if you talk about the debate itself, but if you're just kind of making fun of Destiny, I feel like you're kind of distracting me from being able to watch and pay attention to the video, and I don't want to be distracted. So when you come back after 5 minutes, try to keep it cool, bro.
Ununderstood, misunderstood, or lack of understood organism or thing in the universe so far, except for maybe black holes.
We have Richie Constitution here. Hey, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Destiny, why do you keep saying force a mother to carry the baby when she knows the consequences of having sex could be having a baby, and she knows that contraception is not foolproof? Is she not responsible for her actions?
I mean, I could counter and say hypothetically there could be a rape, but I mean, that's kind of a boring counter. I mean, it's begging the question, like the consequence of having a baby is delivering the baby. I mean, it doesn't have to be. The consequence could be you can get an abortion. That's the matter of what we're debating is what you should be allowed to do.
Well,
right?
both of us are forcing someone to carry a baby to term. Destiny would force them after 20 weeks.
Yeah, of course.
So I would just say, so both of us, I would phrase it this way. We're both forcing a pregnant woman to not allow someone else to kill or dismember her child.
But the difference is I'm forcing somebody to care about that 20-week picture, and you're forcing them to care about the 2-cell picture.
Yeah, and I'm saying that human value does not depend on what we look like. There's AI that looks just like us that doesn't have value. There are disfigured people who don't look like us. We evolved. The problem is that we evolved to care about people that look like us. That's why humans have a problem with racism. You know, we evolved an ability to trust the members of our tribe. If you don't look like me, maybe you're a danger. So we have an evolutionary predisposition to not trust people who don't look like us. Or we think people who are in the uncanny valley, like weird robots, I think that's due to the fact that we stay away from sick people. They might get us infected. So we have an evolutionary predisposition to not care for people who look dramatically different. And I don't think that should guide our decision about whether early human embryos have value.
Okay. I have a question for you, Trent. There's something that often comes up. No uterus, no opinion. So we do have two men here debating the abortion topic. So Trent, what would you say to someone who says that people who are pro-life, it's men wanting to control women or control women's bodies? What do you say to that?
We had two women here last time, and I don't know. I'm having fun with our conversation we're having now. I think it's going well, and we can discuss this. I would say that there's a kernel of truth here. That, for example, I and anyone else who has never been pregnant, which would include some women, are not in a position to say, oh, pregnancy's easy, pregnancy's hard. If you haven't done it, you're not in that position. Even people who have been pregnant, you don't know what it's like for other people to go through pregnancies. It might be harder or easier for them. So on the one hand, like if you've never been pregnant, you can't really say, oh, it's hard, oh, it's easy. You know, you haven't gone through it. But you can say, for example, that child abuse or child labor, making your kids work in a mine or abusing kids, that's wrong even if you never have children. You know, or like a white person can say racism is wrong even if they've never been a victim of racism. Just because you are not personally affected by an issue, it doesn't follow you can't have a valid perspective on it. This argument, if it goes to its logical conclusion, transgender women can't have an opinion on abortion because they don't have uteri. Women who are postmenopausal, Hillary Clinton, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, can't have opinions because they can't get pregnant anymore. But it's like, I can't get pregnant. They can't get pregnant in the future. I can't get pregnant in the future. So I think that the argument that if you are a rational being and you can assess moral reasoning, you can have an opinion on important stuff.
Curiously, though, and I want to kind of pass this as a question to you guys, and if you're watching the VOD, feel free to reply in the comments. I don't think I'm opposed to the idea, if there was like a possible, you know, high-tech system in the future that could do this, to like weight your vote or like weight like the feedback that you can give on an issue relative to like how that issue impacts you. Like if I think about it and I was able to make such a system that could weight votes, I actually do think that if you're postmenopausal, you probably should have less of a weighted vote on abortion laws, or like and probably less than a dude, if I'm being quite real with you, because I think dudes will kind of still have to deal with abortions personally. Like just because I don't have to carry the baby in me doesn't mean that like I'm not going to be in a situation where legislation around abortion has, you know, something to do with me quite a bit. Or like, you know, if you're, you know, let's say a trans woman, but, you know, based on the way that you're having sex, you could get somebody knocked up. Like, I don't see why your opinion would count less than a man. Or like, you know, if you're somebody who has been pregnant and has had kids and can continue to have kids, maybe your opinion on childbirth related stuff should matter more than somebody who's never ever done it. Like, I don't know, because I can think of a gazillion other issues too, where like, if I did have this hypothetical system and I could weight votes, I would probably want to weight the votes. Like, I don't think I'm necessarily opposed to that. And even conversations in airtime too. Like if there was a similarly like perfect system, I think maybe there should, or I would like snap the Thanos glove and like add some weighting to it, because that is kind of annoying. Like if you're like Nick Fuentes and you don't believe in premarital sex and you're never fucking, like maybe your opinion on abortion should be like turned down a little bit. I don't know, because it's not a super relevant thing to you as it is to like maybe Destiny fucking everybody on the face of the earth, or like, you know, somebody that maybe has to deal with it a little bit more. I don't know. Booksmarts, do you think only citizens that own stock in Fortune 500 companies should be able to vote on the tax rate for multi-billion-dollar companies? I don't like this idea of only. I think everybody should still have a say in stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, if you're dealing with some like complicated tax law thing, and you have a bunch of like ingrains who don't even engage with the stock market at all that are trying to like push legislation about it. Yeah, in this like perfect system, I do think your vote should probably be weighted more than them. Similarly, like, with house taxes or land tax or whatever, like maybe landowners should have more of a say than people who aren't landowners. But then you get into a problem where, like, okay, well, what about me who owns one home versus this dude that owns like 50 homes? And like, what about the tyranny of the majority that you create by giving more weight to the people that own more stuff? And now they have a sort of majority sway on things. I don't know what the exact ratios would be. You'd have to like play around with it a bit to get it to be right. But I'm not like if I was engaging with a hypothetical, I don't know if I'm like wholly against it. Like, I don't think I would just write it off. I don't know. Who votes on tax rates? Yeah, I think everybody impacted by tax, but by the tax should probably have more of a say of it than people that are never going to even face the tax. Like, similarly, IMO, like, I think if you're somebody that has been on unemployment, you probably have more experience and are probably in a better position to give an educated vote on something regarding unemployment than somebody who's like never used the system and is like anti-welfare in general and whatever. And yeah, I don't know. But in this perfect world, if I could just Thanos snap everything into being, I'd probably change the way taxes work and public funds work as well, along those lines. But it's not a thought experiment I would dive too deep into. But if I did, I would probably be adjusting a lot of little levers and knobs on the way that system would work.
Got it. And I want to throw this in here, and I've brought this up before, and I know it's kind of certainly must be decades or even longer away from even being a possibility. Any thoughts on a middle ground compromise between the pro-choice side and the pro-life side being an artificial womb? And assuming said artificial womb, if you were able to transplant the fetus or embryo...
Not for his position, maybe for others.
But if you were able to put it into an artificial womb and that artificial womb was advanced enough to, it would be as healthy as a baby that would have otherwise been born normally. Do you think that that's could be a compromise? Or?
Well, it's weird. We basically have artificial wombs that can handle an embryo up to a few days old, or a fetus from like 20 weeks on. Mm-hmm. So it's like we can take care of an unborn child, like going from each end, meeting back in the middle, but we can't really do anything from week or two until like 18 weeks. Mm-hmm. We might have some liquids that are oxygenated. The problem is at 20 weeks, the fetus's lungs aren't really developed enough to breathe. That's the problem. Sure. Oxygenated liquid, maybe we could do that. We'll push it back more. What I would say is that it would only be a compromise if your position on abortion were this. Yes, it is a human person, but it has no right to the mother's body. If you're only arguing women have a right not to abortion, but the right to not be pregnant, then the artificial womb can play in. Because you wouldn't have a right to necessarily kill the fetus. The only right you have is, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. Fine, move the fetus to this womb. Then you'd really lose the argument that I also want the fetus to be dead because I don't want to deal with that child out there.
I like this idea. I feel like this is like an interesting kind of concession or middle ground or whatever. I don't think Steven would feel the same way, but I do.
If your argument is just you have a right to not be pregnant, you can't really get to that. But if you say that...
Should you be able to vote on it? To be clear, I think you should be able to vote on everything. I just believe in weighting it, probably. Issues that affect people around you? Yeah, probably. I mean, again, if it was a perfect system that could perfectly apply the weights, like, let's say that you are from a family of immigrants and a lot of the immigrant people in your family are dreamers, and you should probably be weighted more than like some rando who has never even met somebody that has to deal with that. Yeah, probably. Do you have a girlfriend? No, I do not.
Fetus is not a person anyways. Well, if you can kill them if you can make them unconscious, if you can do anything to them before 20 weeks, which is basically Destiny's position, you can't be compelled to put them in an artificial womb.
Any thoughts on artificial womb?
I don't know I don't know how that would change anything. Yeah.
Well, so let's say a mother who doesn't want to go through with the pregnancy, she could get an abortion. However, the fetus, baby, whatever, would not be killed. It would just be transferred to an artificial womb.
Yeah, my position would be that 20 weeks or after, I guess if you want to do it, they could, but prior to 20 weeks, there'd be no compulsion to transfer it to anything.
Well, the compromise would be at any point, assuming we could develop an artificial womb, that even from, I don't know how quickly it typically gets discovered, 6 weeks or 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6. In any case, from pretty much any point in the pregnancy, even very early on, it could be transferred to an artificial womb.
Okay.
if a woman wanted to not go through with a pregnancy, she'd have to go to say a hospital. It'd be transferred to an artificial womb. I suppose
you should be able to do ! Discord. I was trying to do it for you, but I can't.
Once the child was born, it would become a ward of the state, or if she was so inclined, maybe she didn't want to actually go through with the pregnancy, but she may be prepared to actually mother the child. Because I think some women's concern when it comes to abortion is, it's plausible that some women who get abortions might actually be willing to take care of the child once it's born, but perhaps they don't want to. One of the reasons maybe they don't actually want to go through pregnancy.
That's why a lot of like celebrities hire surrogates now.
Right,
gestational
exactly.
surrogates.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, what is hard is also if that were out there, I think that would be better than the child being aborted. But I still think that a child who comes into existence, if they're a person, they have the right to reside in their mother's womb, the place that is safe and natural for them to live.
Sure. But I mean, of course, this is assuming that, there's certain arguments about, well, what about certain, I'm trying to think, there's a specific term that's evading me, but what was it with, it slipped my mind, but assuming that you could, in an artificial womb, you could bring the child to term just as healthily as in the mother's womb. I don't know if that's even possible, but let's say it is. I suppose my only concern with the artificial womb, just looking at it from this one narrow lens of abortion, is what are the sort of other ramifications?
Well, here's a ramification. If you could deliver at 18 weeks, right now the earliest is like 20. But we could get there where you can keep an 18-week-old fetus alive in an incubator. So it could be sitting there in an incubator, and for the next 2 weeks, the parents would have, under Destiny's view, a free decision whether or not they want to kill that fetus in that hospital incubator right in front of them. Correct? Yep. Okay. So I think many people would find that pretty disturbing.
Sure. And certainly, I mean, there's other concerns with artificial wombs, like people actually it wouldn't be used strictly in situations where perhaps a woman wanted to have an abortion, or perhaps a woman couldn't have a healthy pregnancy or as surrogacy.
I think if I would be very worried about
like farming humans type.
Well,
situation.
if Destiny's view is correct and you cannot harm a fetus before 20 weeks, there's nothing stopping you from using IVF embryos, abandoned embryos. There's thousands of abandoned embryos in cryotanks. You could just put them into these artificial wombs, do something to their brains so they never become conscious.
Sure.
And you've got organ harvest.
Okay. The Van Hammer's coming down again on Carlton. Bruh, stay on topic. Like, I just don't want to get distracted when I read this, and you seem to be nothing but a distraction so far, so try not to be. I don't have specific advice for you, friend, but work on that. Think about it for 5 minutes. Take a breather.
You've got sex dolls. Or even just making them just unconscious. Use them as cadavers for med students to work with. I think many people would find that to be really, really awful and counterintuitive, that we ought not treat those human beings that way. And if they are persons, that best explains that intuition.
Sure.
That's true. But I would just counter with the thing that Trent said earlier, that sometimes we can have incorrect intuitions, I would say.
Yeah.
All right, we have a super chat here from Richie Constitution. Destiny, do you want to read this one?
Our biggest fan.
Destiny, why do you keep saying force a mother to carry the baby when she knows? Wait,
did we already do this one?
Oh, did we do this one?
Yeah, we did this one. Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. We do have this one, which I was actually going to ask this anyways, but may as well. Nerd, for Trent and Destiny, can you in a couple sentences steelman each other's position and explain what is most powerful about each other's position?
Yeah.
And just one thing, the way I was going to ask this, maybe not necessarily each other's position, but if you were to steelman the pro-choice side, and Destiny, if you were to steelman the pro-life side. Trent, would you like to start?
Well, I would say Destiny's position is that the thing that we value is human conscious experience. That is something that is unique in the world that we value. And so we should provide legal protections only to beings that have human conscious experiences. And his position is that this covers beings from 20 weeks until they permanently lose that ability, like if they're in persistent vegetative state. If I were to steelman his position, I would just turn it into Peter Singer's position on abortion, which is because I would say that what makes the human conscious experience unique is not merely that a human is conscious and is aware of light, heat, pressure, cold, sour, familiar noise, unfamiliar noise, but that they can reason, they can do things more than what animals can do. So we value the human conscious experience that is unique to human beings, no other animal has, and we only find that like from 9 months after birth until traumatic injury. So I would just say that for me, the only way to steelman Destiny's position would be to include infanticide.
Based.
I think transposition is essentially a teleological argument. There is a telos, there is like a design and function and purpose of a zygote from the moment of conception up to the moment of death. We have one consistent organism with its own genetic code, and the most consistent boundary to draw around the protection of that life is from the moment of its inception, the time that that unique organism is created, which is at the moment of conception, until the time of its death, which is when essentially metabolic function has ceased. Because the telos, or the design of, or the ordinary function of that particular egg is to gestate in the womb, be born into a person, grow, develop, and then eventually die as a human being.
That was the Steelman of the other side? Or?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right. We have a chat here from Kyle Whittington. Thank you, man. Appreciate the super chat. What do each of you see as the... what do each of you see as the strongest argument from the other? I think we kind of just...
We kind of didn't. Like, one thing Trent gave that I would have liked to hear from Destiny as well is that, what is the delta to make it stronger? Or like, what different approach would I take given these like fundamental assumptions that are baked in the other person's argument to argue it better? And Trent gave an answer that I haven't really heard one from Steven. He kind of just reiterated the other dude's argument. So I don't feel like this was answered, but let's see.
Got that. How about this though? Kyle, why don't I do this since we kind of just answered that? What is the weakest argument you hear from the other side? Trent, why don't you say?
Weakest argument.
And yeah, I am timing people out because I'm not making money off these streams. I'm doing them for fun. And, it's not like I have people that are donating hundreds of dollars saying weird stuff in the chat. It's people consuming free content. I don't know. And then we have people name things like Dick Pull, kind of giving random peanuts that they're throwing from the gallery. And it's just, I don't have to suffer foolishness if I don't want to. So yeah, I'll time people out and stuff.
Argument from the pro-choice position would just be abortion ought to be legal because born people will suffer if it's illegal. I think that is an extremely common argument. If you brought in a bunch of people who haven't, Destiny's thought about this a lot, I've thought about it a lot. If you brought in regular people from off the street out here to defend their pro-choice view, that'd probably be their first argument. What about women were raped? What about poverty? What about all these issues, overpopulation, whatever? The worst argument is we need to have a legal abortion because born people would suffer without it. Of course, it's a terrible argument because it ignores, well, what are the unborn? If you're saying that you can kill a human being in the first 9 months of their life because if not doing that, you're going to suffer, well, you could think of cases of killing born children, children who are in foster care, for example, like, oh, they're going to be drug addicts and prostitutes.
What's my position on abortion? I think practically how I would vote is allowing it. I would probably just copy paste whatever it seems like medical opinions that are pro-abortion would put out. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't draw a line of my own accord because I just really don't care all that much. I don't know. Maybe third trimester is off limits. That seems like a reasonable thing. Although making a chick like have to go through childbirth is a bit fucking freaky. I just don't like the idea of like, oh, there's basically a fully formed baby in there, and would I vote in a way to just let them kill it? Like, do we have an alternative? Like, I would quickly seek an alternative on behalf of the baby that's in there because it's kind of fucked in my opinion. Like let's see, but I don't think that's a very common case. I think it's a really small percentage that even do that. So I don't think it's a super helpful edge case to really think about too much. But then again, super small percentage of people are murderers or battery people or people that do other kinds of morally apprehensible things. So maybe it is worthwhile to have a law. I just don't really think about it very much. Frankly, I don't care about the topic very much. I most of the reason why I covered this is because I thought Trent was a good debater, and especially the snippet that was posted on Destiny's channel, I thought he did a relatively good job, and he had control over the conversation. I wanted to look at that and break it down a little bit, but that's kind of my thinking. Now, morally, or like when do I think life begins? If I'll be honest with you, I feel like it makes sense to just have life begin at like the conception, I guess, but like it's a different kind of life than at 20 weeks or, when the child is born or even at 1 year. Like, I think life kind of changes a lot in different stages. And, I don't know, my value on life kind of teeter-totters back and forth on different things, and I like to take a more individualistic look at things, but like I don't think that life is really comparable to like my life as like a 26-year-old dude. I think they're very, very far apart. Like I would probably put my life as like a 26-year-old dude that's a human closer to like my dog than I would like a one cell thing. Um, maybe that sounds really shitty, but that's probably like my heart of hearts opinion is like, if we're talking in terms of life, it's probably more comparable to like animals than it is to like a one cell thing. Um, like the one cell thing is probably more comparable or like closer to like a skin cell on my body or like a sperm or like an egg than it is like me as a person that's all grown up. But I feel the same way about like a newborn baby. Like a newborn baby is probably closer to the egg or like the one cell thing than it is to like me as a person. Or I think a dog would still probably be closer than a newborn baby for me. But that I think quickly changes like after maybe like a few months or a year or something. Then I'll start changing my opinion on that personally. If we consider germs on Mars a life, then a cell rapidly replicating must be. Sure, and I'm not saying it's not life, but like life isn't really the right metric when we talk about what we think is worth preserving. And to be clear, like I'm still like pro preserving. It's just another thing you have to think about, or I do, is like there's 8 billion of us and we seem to get pregnant like relatively easily, and we have a lot of like support for giving birth and stuff. If we were a race of panda people and it was really hard to even get knocked up, let alone carry the baby all the way to term and then take care of it without eating it and whatever, then I would probably have way stricter opinions just because it's so difficult. Like if you were a panda that has a baby, I might just take away your right to an abortion, like wholesale. I might just say that you don't have the right to an abortion. There's so few of us that like, I'm okay with just biting the bullet that you have to carry that to term. And I just don't care about your personal opinion in the matter. But we're not there. Again, there's like 8 billion of us or whatever. And, it would probably be different if we were on a spaceship going to Mars and there's like 100 of us and there's a certain amount of like birth rate that we need to make sure that by the time we get to the next star that we're going to colonize, we need to have enough people. Like in that case, I would also probably be okay with legislating that like either we need to take the baby out of you and keep caring for it, or you might have to still carry it to term. But we don't live in a universe like that. But if we did, then the opinion would probably be different. Or like, but even then it might be different. Like if I imagine that we're on a desert island and we're the last of some people after like a nuclear holocaust or something, and we don't know if there's other people out there in the world, I don't even know if in that case I would like force somebody to carry the child to term, probably because of survival reasons. Like if you take a giant risk without medical technology and stuff having a baby, and there's like a way higher likelihood you die from complications and stuff, then I probably wouldn't force it on you. So like I imagine these different scenarios where like my opinion on that changes and whatever, but maybe that's not super helpful for you guys. Did you microdose tonight, Booksmart? No, I didn't. What about morality of Plan B? I feel like I bought too many, but why is tricky. I think Plan B should be okay. Like in my opinion, Plan B is definitely more morally acceptable than like a second trimester abortion or even a first trimester, like late first trimester abortion or something. Like I feel like Plan B, but like I also have this tinge of like responsibility. Like I think it's probably a more responsible decision to like Plan B something than to get an abortion later. But I also don't feel like, I feel like we're grasping at straws there, at least in my brain. I don't feel like there's a huge moral difference between like getting Plan B and getting like a late first trimester abortion. Like I don't really see, I don't imagine a huge difference there morally.
Maybe we should just kill them so they don't have a terrible life. Well, if we don't do that to toddlers, then we shouldn't do that to unborn humans if they're both equally human.
And yeah, Vels, Trent did Steelman Destiny well in that video.
Same value.
Gotcha.
So I would say that those pragmatic arguments are the worst arguments.
Destiny, what do you think?
I think the two worst ones are, one is the picture argument. I don't like if you show a picture and it's like, is this right or wrong? I feel like the best illustration of that was, I don't remember what his name was, but there was a guy that went on Charlie Kirk's show and he held up like a picture of like a 24-week embryo and he's like, is this a human? And Charlie was like, absolutely. And the guy's like, this is a pig embryo. And Charlie's like, oh, and then they got into a fight over that. I think the second, the most morally reprehensible argument is, I don't like, a donor kind of did it, I don't like the argument from responsibility, because they almost make it sound like
a 4-cell zygote is probably closer to an egg than a 2-year-old, I would say. I mean, at 2, dude, have you met a 2-year-old kid? Like, a 2-year-old kid is like where I start saying like little human. He's a little human. Like, 2-year-old kids have a lot going on. A 2-year-old kid is super far from like a 4-cell zygote. Like you might get me closer at like, no, not even like 1 month. I don't know. There's a huge gap between those things. I don't know.
Child is like a negative consequence or a punishment from sex. I think that one gets really loaded because it starts to feel like they're using a child as a form of punishment to attack a woman, which is a really poor way to deal with the woman, and it's a really sad way to deal with the existence of a child. Like the idea that children are consequences negative of actions you take. So I think those two things are kind of negative.
But you're not a fan of bodily rights arguments for abortion that say even if it is a person, you still have the right to have an abortion. You don't think those arguments work.
No.
Wouldn't the basis of that be, if the unborn human being is a person, you can't abort them because you have moral duties towards them?
Yeah, but I think the moral duties, if somebody wants to talk about a form of like moral duties to other people, or the de facto guardianship that you inherit over a child because you only provide care, that's one argument. But the way that it's phrased is oftentimes that, like, don't you think a woman should have consequences for having sex?
I agree with you. It can be put very crass and sexist.
There is like a more eloquent way to make that argument. We talk about moral duties or responsibilities that I've probably made. Actually, I did against Dillahunty when I argued against that. So yeah, I would agree with that. But oftentimes it's just phrased in a really negative way that makes the child.
Well, it's like, you had sex, you should own up to it. When it's only levied at women, for example, and not men, that they should support her and the child, and then it's done in a sexist way. So
I don't know, bruh. I feel like it's probably bad in both scenarios. I feel like the whole, well, you had sex, you should accept the consequences of it, is like bad, whether you're talking about like obligating a man to take care of the baby for the rest of its life, or you're talking about the woman doing the same thing. I feel like both are probably bad. I don't like this sexist focus point. Maybe that's like a feminist thing and like arguments they make, and that's what he runs into a lot. But like, I feel like that is a distinction without a huge difference for me as a dude, but maybe it matters more to women. I don't like the idea of doing that to either sex. I feel like it's just a bad argument, like full stop.
All right. And then we have, one sec here.
Especially because those same people will oftentimes make arguments for men being able to financially abort their responsibility too. So even though it takes two to create a baby more often than not.
Yeah, I say they both have different responsibilities, but equally they are responsible.
Got it. Sorry, guys, trying to get this triggered once more. Not that kind of triggered, the Streamlabs one we had. By the way, Destiny, I see you're not wearing a wedding ring, but you are married. What
I'm playing with. I always play with mine. Okay. It's silicone.
Oh, Kirby, 1/3 of rats have the conscious ability to hear, see, smell to a great extent, more so than the newborn human. In these ways, their consciousness is greater, yet they're not persons. Destiny appealed to human conscious experience, as if the fact that a... I guess he didn't have enough time to...
Well, he put 1 out of 3 at the beginning, bud.
Yeah, I don't agree that a diminished human experience is like similar to like a rat or a pig or a lizard. I've never seen any evidence or any description academically of that, but... I mean, again, if somebody were to like compellingly argue that, then they would just be pushing me closer and closer to Peter Singer's position, which I think is like abortion up to 2 years old. I think is his position.
He says 28 days, 9 months. People give different time frames, but it's sometime after birth. So, yeah.
All right, and I had another question here, and I don't know if you were able to fully give an answer, Trent, but so legislatively speaking, I don't know if you fully answered. So. Would you would like to make abortion illegal? Is that correct?
Yeah.
To perform, to get an abortion?
Yeah. I would say that the laws that I think would be most helpful to pass, I would just go with the laws that are being passed now in states that are making abortion illegal, where it is illegal to perform an abortion. So that wouldn't reflect on those who seek out the procedure. It's on medical doctors who should know better. So I would say that procedure should be outlawed. And so in doing that, I don't think that's inconsistent, because you can craft laws. Let's say, for example, you see prostitution as a public health threat, so much so that it ought to be illegal. It's not inconsistent to simply say, well, to take into account the circumstances of women who are involved, we're going to make it illegal to buy sex but not to sell sex. And so we charge the Johns and the pimps and all these other people. So I think that you can have something similar, but I do think that unborn children should be protected from harm in the womb, whether they're wanted or unwanted.
And we do have the 2/3 and the other two chats here from Kirby. Hold on, let me get these pulled back up. I think he's just okay. Two out.
Come on, bro. It's very, very simple. Let's use logic. Let's read from 1 and then without pausing, read 2 and then 3. Come on. You can figure this out. I believe in you, bro. It is a little bit weird when people take over your stream with these and they like become like a second host. But again, it's kind of like what I was saying with the chatters that are being annoying. If you're paying $150 to have a 3-part super chat, that's very different than if you're just in chat spamming questions or whatever.
Excuse me. 2 out of 3 of his messages. Newborn with less conscious ability than a rat is a person because of their humanity, not their extent of conscious. If less consciousness than a pig, but you're human, makes a newborn or a 20-week fetus a person, then this shows the extent, and then hold on. Of consciousness is not the person-making factor. You must therefore either appeal to a future greater extent of consciousness or appeal to humanity in itself. Either appeal prevents you from advocating for pre-20-week abortions. Do you guys have a thought on his?
It's the same thing that they're saying that I'm setting a bar that's either too low that animals could jump through it, or too high such that a 20-week-old or a 9-month-old fetus couldn't jump through it. But again, I would argue that a human conscious experience is a kind of conscious experience that's unique from the moment of conception. That is a sapient human experience, not from the moment of conception, from the moment of the conception of the conscious experience. So from the 20-week period, 20 to 28 weeks, that once that conscious experience starts, that is a unique sapient human conscious experience. It might be diminished, it might be developing, but it's something unique from any other type of animal experience.
And I would say that just begs the question. Dogs have unique conscious experiences. Birds have unique conscious experiences. So just because you have a unique experience, it doesn't follow that it deserves legal protection.
No,
and this is something I want him to work on. Like, if I could force Destiny to like sit in a room and work on a few topics and like think them through and come up with good arguments, I feel like he needs to do a better job of explaining what makes humans special. And I worry that at the end of it, the real answer is just like, I'm a human and I understand it, and therefore it's more special. Or maybe it's something like, well, we demonstrate capabilities in a culture and a worldwide civilization that I don't see in other things. But then you have things like red ants that I think kind of do that, or like other kinds of species. Like, I don't know. Listening to him argue this and argue a kind of similar vein with like vegan people that are really tryharding the debate, and he just kind of starts memeing, I find to be disappointing. I feel like he should kind of just figure this out and not take it for granted. But we all hit points in our arguments and our beliefs where stuff is just faith, or like we took a shortcut and like we decided to like make a 90-degree angle here, and we're not going to really explain it very well. It's just like an intuitive thing. It's just, yeah, I kind of wish he would work on this point a little bit more.
Human unique one does.
Why?
Well, I don't know. Why does God exist? I mean, that's a fundamental. There are rights, I believe, that we afford each other, and one of those is the right to not be killed.
Right, and to me, I think when the human part of the equation is pressed into service to save one from becoming a radical vegan, I think that more slides into defending the pro-life view that all humans are valuable, regardless of whether they currently have conscious experiences or they will eventually have them.
Okay. And I don't think that we should hold women, on trial for murder because they abort something that hasn't even woken up yet.
But you do think they should be on trial for murder for something that has the most minimal consciousness it can have as a human being?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But they have the opportunity to abort first. I don't think a woman that takes Plan B should be investigated for homicide.
And they're not murderers if they euthanize their dogs.
Correct. You can euthanize your dog, yeah. But I don't think people that take Plan B demand murder investigations.
Okay.
We have a chat here from Gohan Bento. Thank you for the super chat. Should a mother be compelled to carry a baby to term if, at 2 weeks, it's determined that the future child absolutely will carry Destiny out of Diamond 4, saving his League of Legends career?
Absolutely, because there's a future person being saved there, and that's me. It's about saving a life.
Okay, there you go.
It's not. Yeah, I would say that it's not a potential person. It is a person with great potential to help Destiny.
Of extraordinary capabilities.
Yeah. Got it. And this one's kind of random, related to time.
Yeah, he talks about capability of language, but like, again, I just feel like if I spent like a month really researching this and talking to people that make arguments on the other side, I feel like these would falter and they would fall down, because I feel like it's kind of like when I hear arguments from conspiracy theorists, like there is something broken here. Like, if you don't think that the earth is round and you think it's flat, like, if I can gather enough examples of technology that works based on like a round earth, like recently I was watching this YouTube channel, and yeah, I am just gonna totally derail here for a second because this conversation is getting kind of boring. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Do 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 do. These videos are really cool. They only have a few videos on their channel, but basically they run like a simulation of like war in like a military grade simulator that takes into account like all the capabilities of the fleets and stuff like that. And then they run it and they see like how would these different like things change, and how would there's an interesting concept here where, to avoid something like a radar system, or to avoid like radar based missiles and stuff, you go to like within 30 feet of the surface of the water or the land or whatever, because the curvature of the earth is such that it'll protect you for like 20 miles out or something like that. Like they like there's so many practical applications that we have and practical things that we do that takes for granted that the earth is round and seems to work. Like, if I were to do research like that, I think I would probably defeat this argument about like language. Like, intuitively, and from what little I've read, I wouldn't discount animals having language. Like, if we look at something like dolphins or birds or even crickets chirping, like, I feel like language is something that, if you use human definitions and semantics and whatever, sure, you could try that, but we don't have experts on like the language of animals, and like domain experts that speak the language of animals and like could definitively say that they don't have semantics and whatever. And I would probably need to read more to see if that's the case, but like, that's where my intuition leads, and I feel like he's got to be working off of intuition as well. So I don't know. And I feel like if you knock down that domino, he would just come up with some other argument to defend a position that he's kind of intuited himself into. So no, I don't find those arguments very convincing personally, but it's just me.
Time travel. So Destiny,
Why not?
why not? Destiny, if your mom in this wanted to abort you at say 7 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever.
And an interesting tangent in that regard would be like Neanderthals and stuff, because my understanding is like Homo erectus and Neanderthals might have had language that would have semantic. Like, I don't know. I don't know. That's also why I kind of wish aliens would exist, because then we would have to grapple with problems where like we're dealing with an intelligence comparable to ours, and maybe it would expand our idea of like what life is worthwhile or what the potential life could be. Like, it would be really cool if aliens came down and told us like, yeah, consciousness isn't really fundamentally different between all the animals on Earth, and all of you guys have the potential to develop a culture which relies heavily on language. And actually, I know this race of Bobs, and the race of Bobs, they don't really use language at all, but they're way better than us in this regard, in this regard, in this regard, and they're culturally rich for this and that. And then you would eliminate that altogether as like a bit of reasoning for why you think humans are better for language or whatever. But that stuff doesn't exist.
Let's say you could time travel back in time. Would you advocate for or against your abortion?
I think that everything starts with fundamental basic human logics. Some people call these properly basic beliefs. So I've heard other very simple things, but everything starts from these. From here, we have an understanding of something called causality, that event leads to event that leads to event. If you want to break a chain of causality and then ask me a question past that, I can't give you any kind of consistent or coherent answer. If you go back into the past to do other things, then there's like paraconsistent logics and all sorts of weird things that open up that I can't give any meaningful answer for. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. I don't know if you had anything on that trend.
I'm pretty
I would bite the bullet. Yeah. If I could go back in time and talk to my mom and she was considering aborting me, I feel like I would probably try to make the argument for her to keep me if it meant consequentially that I like disappear like a Back to the Future photo or something. I feel like this is a hypothetical that you could engage with. This is a good answer. Probably a smarter answer than engaging with it the way that I did, because it probably opens you up to like attacks from the dude that's sitting across from you or the chat or whatever, but like you know, without any stakes on the line, I would personally say, yeah, I would go back in time and debate my mom. Although granted, given my other debates with my mom, perhaps I wouldn't win it, but I would definitely try so I don't just disappear if that was the consequence.
The time travel is fun.
Why couldn't the aliens say, yeah, animals don't really matter and don't have sophisticated enough consciousness? I mean, if they did, then they would, you know. I just don't really believe that. I don't really know of any compelling reason why we're fundamentally different. Like, it's a faith-based thing, but my faith indicates to me, my intuition indicates to me that like I could see other animals with like intelligence developing language and culture and technology and whatever. I don't necessarily see a reason why it has to only be humans. I haven't heard compelling arguments for why that would be the case. I think with enough time and like the right conditions, it probably could be that other stuff could do it. But I don't know the counters to it. I don't have an alien telling me that like actually you need to hit these like 63 steps, and those 63 steps are needed to put you at the plateau that you're at now for like intelligence and culture and whatever. And maybe most of the animals on earth only get to like level 20 of the 60, or like some animals are outliers and they're actually at 60 of 63 and they're only like 3, you know, cultural steps or evolutionary steps removed from actually being on par with humans, or like being on the same track that humans would have been on or whatever. Because I think another difficult thing is like depending on the kind of species that ends up being the first one to hit like a marked improvement in intelligence and culture and language and whatever else you care about, like maybe that species just starts like killing the little brother species, and it kind of keeps them from ever getting too close. Like if we had a Planet of the Apes thing, I feel like that's a good exploration of this. What happens if like monkeys or apes or whatever start like developing language and culture, and they start warring with each other and they don't like us? And I feel like we would start quelling them. We would probably start putting an end to monkeys the way that we did in the past with like Neanderthals and stuff. I think we would probably kill them. And that's part of why I think like, no, I don't know, bro. We've had things like Neanderthals, and it seems like other stuff could theoretically turn into humans, or like have be on the right track to like develop technology and stuff like that, which seems to be our defining feature compared to other animals, more than language and stuff. I feel like it's probably technology. Like if you told me dolphins can't talk, but they have secret underwater bases and they have science and they can fly off the planet and whatever, I would probably consider them intelligent, regardless of their language capabilities. I feel like that's a weird line to draw. Even if they were like quasi-religious and they got their answers from like, you know, some subconscious thing that talks to them and tells them what to do, I would still kind of grant them equality with us if they were technologically similar to us. But you know, such hypotheticals don't really exist. Booksmarts, I'm not a vegan, but I feel like Destiny's opinion on consciousness comes from not giving a shit about animals and post hoc justifying it. That's the mean way of saying it, but I can't say I disagree with you. Like if I was to simplify it down, it does seem like he kind of just has this position and then backwards reasons everything to like justify it. But that's honestly, if I'm being real with you, and I've said this ever since I started streaming and talking about philosophy and stuff, I feel like it's probably likely that that is for like 98% of people the way that they think about things. Like you have some kind of intuition, and then you're constantly like noticing in the world things that support that intuition that you have, and then selectively ignoring or degrading the value of things that fight against that intuition. Hold on, let me log back in. Not true. Destiny loves cat. Send him a cat picture and watch his response. Okay. I think in a lot of ways is how everyone does it. Yeah, I think that's probably the way that we all do it, honestly. 98 is probably like a very high thing. Like if I was being really honest and I had to give a guess, I would probably put it at like 99.999. I mean, there's a lot of fucking humans, dude. I would have to crunch the numbers if God was asking me to make a bet with the devil or something. But yeah, I'd say it's probably the vast, vast, vast majority of us.
fun in movies.
Like myself included, like maybe some positions I've reasoned to just through like looking at arguments and whatever, but like that's pretty foreign and alien, and there's still a lot of intuition working in there.
Sure.
It's a nightmare in philosophy.
Sure.
One probably should avoid it.
Okay. And then let's see. I had a question here for Trent. So what would you say to someone who says that it's hard to take conservatives seriously on the abortion issue, considering perhaps not all conservatives, but some, or who knows the percentage breakdown, considering their social Darwinism on many other issues?
Well, I would say that a person can be correct and still be inconsistent. So 150 years ago, there were white people who were saying that black people should not be slaves.
Booksmarts will be walking all this back if Destiny confronts him on this take. You're basically saying the one good faith analysis creator when it comes to debate is making it up as he goes. No, I can compare this to other opinions that he has where I feel like he's far more convincing to me. I don't think I would back this up. I think if he confronted me and he was like, "Hey buddy, so I saw a clip of you saying that you think I post hoc rationalize my beliefs on this thing," it would probably be like, "Yeah, I kind of do." And that's coming from a place of like, I just don't find your arguments as convincing or like, you know, well reasoned out as other things. And I do see you back out of a lot of conversations where you do that with people who I think could like reasonably challenge the position. Like I'm thinking, there's a philosophy guy, you guys probably know his name. I think he has like some kind of like British or fancy accent. But like I think he's a good example of this. There's another one too. Even some of the vegan gains ones, I feel like he, you know, doesn't feel the need to take them uber seriously, which granted, you know, it's vegan gains, so whatever. I don't necessarily disagree, but yeah, I mean, it's a thing that I would like to see him work harder on my behalf, just so that I could see better arguments and perhaps be convinced better. But I don't feel like that's totally shitting on him. And I don't think it means that he's bad faith or whatever else either. You know, like, I just think I would like to see that stuff workshop because I'm interested in like what answers he would come up with if he took it more seriously and tried to come up with like different arguments for it. Like I would like more than the language one because I just don't find the language one to be very compelling. Yeah, perspective philosophy, that's the guy. There's a chat that him and Destiny did on this topic. Oh, I'm sure there is. And, you know, maybe we'll watch it at some point. But that'll be a conversation that my watching it and commenting on it will probably unironically get me in trouble with Destiny. So I don't know.
But also that black people shouldn't be allowed to marry white people. They shouldn't be allowed to vote. So they were correct about the wrongness of slavery, even though they were wrong about some of the other rights that they should have. So you could be right about abortion and then you're incorrect about other stuff. You're not applying your worldview consistently. I also think, though, that the argument is incredibly loaded in that regard. I think saying that conservatives want social Darwinism is like saying liberals want the gulags. You know, it's that it's a caricature of one's position. It ultimately comes down to, I support this social program. You don't want to spend as much as me on it, so you're a social Darwinist. We're going to disagree about, well, is this the best way to solve this problem? Or there are going to be solutions where we're not sure what the right answer is. But I think that there should be solutions where we're clear what the wrong answer is. Like, we may not know exactly what to do with immigration. We shouldn't shoot immigrants who are coming over the border. People are going to disagree. How do we treat unborn children if they're persons? Well, at the very least, we shouldn't dismember them. We shouldn't directly kill them in the womb. By the way, the hypocrisy thing goes back to liberals too. Like, they claim to be all pro, like, what is it? Reason or somebody else did a video about this where they went to the Democratic National Convention and said, "Are you pro-choice?" Like, absolutely. Okay, do you believe in the choice to own a gun? Do you believe in the choice, school choice or charter schools? Do you believe in the choice to do this or that? Oh, no, you can't do that. So it cuts both ways.
Okay, got it. And then let me see what else we had here. Question here for Destiny. So if it became absolutely clear to you that the unborn child before...
And I will address this. Destiny has we are talking about the limits of what is known about the brain, consciousness, and the universe. So he uses that gray area to his advantage, same as as people with other perspectives. I think the key part is the end of that. Because, like, I don't necessarily disagree with that. We are on the bounds of, like, what we can actually know and whatever, but that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it a more fun. I understand he doesn't think it's fun, but like, I do think that makes it more fun to kind of engage with and whatever. It's probably more annoying for him than anything else, but like, Yeah, I don't even think that's wrong. We are at the limits of what we can do and whatever. But in my opinion, and this is kind of what drove a lot of like the research choices that I made when writing essays for people in psychology and even business administration, is like, if you're an actual like researcher and you care about like the general topic, which I don't think he does a lot, but that's neither here nor there. Like, I think that's the most fun thing. Like, I love going into something knowing that research is divided on the topic, because that means that it's ripe grounds for like finding something out. Or like, if there's development on the topic every year or two, like that's a fun thing to go and look into and be like, oh, okay, well, now there's this new paper on language in animals, and it appears that this animal actually, now that we're researching it more, they do have this way of communicating and blah 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 blah. I find that stuff to be cool. I think the cutting edge of like what we know is a fun place to operate within. So that's just me though. I would like to buy your channel. I am prepared to put together a very generous offer. Okay, email it to me, bro.
Or is it 23 weeks?
20 weeks.
20 weeks. Before that period, if it became absolutely clear that it's a living human being, would you then favor outlawing abortion before 20 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You already said that.
But that's not your position. But if it,
Well, my position has nothing to do with the timeline. It has to do with the deployment of the conscious experience.
okay, gotcha. We have another super chat here from the Joshua Project. Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Should husbands be required to take a paternity test prior to signing a birth certificate? And if he found not to be the father, should the mother?
Also, regarding like the edge of what we know, abortion is a topic on the edge of what we know. Like, Stephen's position could radically change tomorrow if there's a convincing paper out that says that like consciousness actually does start at like conception or whatever, and he's willing to change it, right? Like, this is a topic like that as well, and he's basing a lot of what he believes off of like, you know, where the research is at. So I don't feel like this is fundamentally different, and that's why I bring it up. Is fun for a while, but Stephen has been talking about these issues for half a decade, so it's not fun for him now. The people he debates, tough, they are motivated to their opinion, sure, but I mean, on the topic of, you know, differentiating animals and whatever, I mean, he's motivated on the topic as well.
Be charged with fraud, and should taxpayers be forced to pay for unwed mothers' children?
Well, I would say the children didn't do anything wrong, so it's like we should still provide care for them. It's not their fault they're in a not ideal situation. So, but I would say what's interesting here is this touches on something called the presumption of paternity. So throughout most of human history, up until very recently, when a child is born, it's really easy to figure out who the mom is, right? Because she's right there.
Yeah.
But it hasn't always been easy to figure out who dad is. So that's why throughout most marriage and common law, the presumption of paternity is that if a woman gives birth, the husband is the man she is married to, and he is the only one who can challenge that. And so he might challenge paternity. If you know, hey, I was away at war for a year, and you got pregnant and had a kid. What's going on here? But otherwise, that would be up to him to challenge. And yeah, if there's an issue there, I think the child should just be taken care of, even if the marriage is a bit of a mess.
Sure. Any thoughts on this, Destiny?
Treat it as fraud. You'd have to prove it's fraudulent. There could legitimately be a mistake where a woman is dating or casually having sex with a couple people and then has a more formal relationship, and then she got pregnant early and I didn't realize it. Like, I don't know if it would count as fraud if that was the case.
I think, though, that's why also to have a strong familial structure, the best thing for families, though, would be something that's monogamous to prevent these kinds of things from happening.
Sure. But I'm just saying the crime of fraud requires mens rea as the intent to fraud. I don't think you can defraud somebody accidentally, right? Like, if I legitimately
you could just be careless.
Yeah. So I don't think all forms of mispaternity or incorrect paternity are necessarily fraudulent. You'd have to prove the willful fraudulent behavior of the mother.
I mean, but would it be fraudulent if there was around the time period where she got pregnant, there was infidelity that was at no point ever disclosed to the husband, and
well, like she
later
could be estranged from him, get pregnant. Well, I guess it would be hard for her to
timeline wise.
Well, also because
you could argue there's a due diligence that's necessary.
Flan Life. Thank you for the membership. Thank you.
You can argue there's like a necessary due diligence there from the mother's perspective, sure.
Okay. But you're saying, let's assume that you could prove it's fraud. Like, she knew it's not the baby. Should there be civil penalties, criminal penalties?
I mean, whatever the normal thing is for scamming the state or another person, I guess, whatever it ordinarily is.
Well, I don't think you can, regardless of who the father is. I don't know if you can.
I think that'd be more of like it's more of a.
I like that Red Pill stuff kind of preys on like the nightmares of men. like like I don't know if you guys pick up on this, but I feel like I'll share something personal. A lot of my nightmares are about like awful social situations. Like, um, I I find myself like losing control of myself and committing a crime. And like the moment you commit the crime, now your life is fundamentally changed. Like if I accidentally kill somebody or something, or I accidentally steal or whatever, and I kind of come to in the moment immediately after, like, well, now my whole life is fundamentally like I feel like there's similar nightmares about like, well, what if it turns out that like the kid from your ex who you fucking hate, who's a manipulative piece of shit, what if it turns out that the kid that you've been paying for like 16 years wasn't yours and she knew the whole time? Like it feels to me like one of those similar like nightmare situations where you wake up and you find yourself in this situation and everybody's afraid that it would happen to them. Or like similarly on the flip side of the coin, like a dream situation. Like what if you woke up tomorrow and you could fuck any woman that you want and every woman wanted you because you were rich and attractive and like you didn't even have to work out for the body and you're fucking buff. And like if you guys have ever seen this commercial, there's a commercial about this kid that like Freaky Fridays into Ronaldo, the soccer player's body. And like now he's Ronaldo and he has this cool life and fancy cars and whatever. But like you have to put in all this training. And like Ronaldo wakes up in the kid's body. And it was all the work ethic and stuff that led Ronaldo to where he is. So he starts becoming like an amazing athlete as the kid and putting in all the work and whatever. And the kid learns like, oh, this is what it takes at a high level to be this. Anywho, but like without all that, like if you could magically be like the rich dude who fucks a bunch of women and you have like an awesome wife who's okay with, like, it seems like they prey on these like fantasies and these nightmares of the modern man, and that's what they're going for. I don't know, I find it a little bit interesting. I guess a lot of stuff does that. Like if you are maybe a lefterly person, you're talking about immigration, you're probably coming up with nightmare scenarios that lead you to support like really liberal immigration policies or whatever. But I just think it's interesting.
Civil matter now to deal with family court about how do we support this child and who's related to that. I still think that husbands have duties to their wives, even if these things happen. That infidelity doesn't break the marriage bond.
This is like a red pill fantasy question of like that all women are trying to defraud fathers with like fake child support. Is essentially that's what the question is. So.
I would say, well, should wives be able to have civil liability towards their husbands if they knock up another girl? Like why is anyone asking about that?
Oh, no, true.
They're not asking about that, so
true. That's because they're red pillars.
Yeah.
But I think perhaps it's a greater wrong because actually I don't know where I'm going. I'm going with that one. But as far as the paternity testing, I think my personal stance is I would actually be in favor of when the child's born, there's just automatic paternity test. That way, there's absolutely no questions.
I would just, to me, I would say that it's rare that happens, and that's why my preferred option would just be, well, I think people could have the option to ask for that as if they're not married. But that's why my ideal would be, that's the reason we bring children into existence in marriage. It's not just some romantic option. Like when a child is conceived, you've got a helpless human being, and whose duty is towards that child? Really, it's the mother and father. They're if they die, we can come up with a decent substitute, but the mother and father are really irreplaceable to that child. They can never be.
No, I've never been caught saying the N-word by nightmares. No, no, I haven't. I have had nightmares where like I'm accused of committing a crime somewhere like China, and nobody believes me because I'm the foreigner, and they all like attack me, and then I'm put in jail forever. Similarly with like Japanese prisons, I am like high key afraid of Japanese prisons. Maybe we'll watch a video or two about that, but if you don't know about the Japanese prison system, it's really fucked up. But no, never about the N-word.
Be truly replaced. It's always just almost there. So we have an institution to make them irreplaceable to each other, which would be a lifelong permanent monogamous bond that's socially recognized. And that's why marriage is so important to society in that regard.
Do we know the percentage breakdown of the incidence rate of paternity fraud So basically, or in other words,
it's like 1 to 2% of like all.
I've
of
heard up to 10%.
That's a total fucking lie. Whoever told it to you should never trust a single thing they tell you about any data
Well, I
or
think
stat.
we ought to
because it's
Google
probably
it.
just a fucking retard that absolutely hates women, and that's where he gets all of his stats from. Is www.fuckwomen.com. Whoever told you that? Who told you that?
That paternity fraud is
That
upwards
it's
of
10%. Yeah, who told you that? You know what the stat? You know what? I just.
Uh-oh. He did probably Google this before. I don't know. Let's read a little bit. Also known as misattributed paternity or paternal discrepancy occurs when a man is incorrectly identified as the biological father of a child. The underlying assumption of paternity fraud is that the mother deliberately misidentified the biological father, while misattributed paternity may be accidental. I would guess this is probably way more common and is probably not what they're specifically talking about, but let's see. Research published in 2016 indicated that 1 in 50 British fathers is unknowingly raising a child who is the biological child of another man, and that misattributed paternity is rarer than commonly believed. But again, that is misattributed paternity, which I feel like is fundamentally different than the question they're asking, which is paternity fraud. And then if we keep looking here, a 2005 scientific review of international published studies of paternal discrepancy found a range in incidence around the world from 0.8% to 30%, with the median being 3.7%. However, as many of the studies were conducted between the 50s and 80s, numbers may be unreliable due to inaccuracies of genetic testing methods and procedures used at the time. Studies ranging in data from 1991 to 1999 quote the following incidence rates: 11% in Mexico, 4% in Canada, 2.8% in France, 1.4% and 1.6% in the UK, and 0.8% in Switzerland. These numbers suggest that the widely quoted and unsubstantiated figure of 10% of non-paternal events is an overestimate. Where is this coming from? I guess it's probably one of these. However, in studies that solely looked at couples who obtained paternity testing because paternity was being disputed, there are higher levels of an incidence of 17 to 33%, which we would expect because, this is a smoke and fire type of situation as opposed to like testing everybody. Let's see, 1 in 500 fathers. Okay, that's the Guardian. How paternity testing is like international trade. Where is the 10% number coming from? How well there's, okay. I don't like that they just don't. There should be a citation here to know where the 10% number came from. I wonder if there's something on the discussion page for this. Let's see. I'm going to control F for 10%. I'm going to put percent so we get a more clear. Oh, no way. What? Okay. I'm wondering how this 10 got in here and where is that coming from? I just want to know where the source is that came up with 10%. Because this doesn't even have a citation on it. That's annoying. Okay, this UK study, which is citation 3, which isn't linked. The phrasing here is a little unclear, at least to me. At first glance, it seems like the two are referring. God damn it, this fucking laptop, dude. Again, if we have anybody that uses Macs in the chat that can explain to me why, despite setting the settings to never go to sleep, it constantly logs me out and goes to sleep, I would love to know. Total cases, okay. Perhaps 10% of parental disputes were, I don't know. Let me see. But the source, if I understand correctly, says that both figures refer to the same set of cases, that the wrongly identified 0.2% of total cases process also makes up 10 to 9% of those cases resolved by, oh, well, that's very different. At this point, I don't even care what the Wikipedia. I just want to know if my attempts at comprehending the source are. I agree with your interpretation. Have I also replaced the claim research indicates blah blah blah. This is tied to a Telegraph article, and it mentions with the headline, but the body says up to 2%, and the British angle seems to have been invented by the Telegraph. God, it's so fucking annoying. Okay, I guess we're just not going to get that. I might actually come back to this Wikipedia article and engage in this talk later, but probably not best to do on stream.
Divine, God just fucking direct revelation. I just got special revelation from God. I just figured out what he said. This fucking moron probably read something.
Like, we shouldn't have to be doing perhaps. there should be sources, and I should be able to track it back. It's just it seems like that article is not doing a uber good job, at least in that one regard.
That said, in the case where paternity is challenged, 10% of them are fraudulent. I could maybe believe that number.
Well,
but if you're making the statement that 10% of all paternity is like 10,
that'd be like 1 out of every 10 kids.
That's
it's not really their kid.
That's insane.
I agree with you that it may be the case that when it's challenged. I mean,
but most paternity is not
exactly.
challenged.
So it's probably only challenged in cases of suspected infidelity. In which case, I can see.
I'll Google it. I'll Google it.
Yeah.
Incidents of paternity fraud. Maybe that's the appropriate prompt for this. Okay, so it does look like there's some challenge to this 10% number.
That would just be an insane number.
Well, for all, yeah, for sure.
That would be insane.
According to Wikipedia, which is not, it says that in studies that solely looked at couples who obtained paternity testing because paternity was being disputed, you can bring it back. There are higher levels, an incidence of 17% to 33% in instances where the paternity is being disputed.
We need the Maury clip right now. You are not the father.
Yeah, but so that's that's probably in, if I had to guess, less than 5% of births, probably less than that of paternities are challenged, and then of that less than that percent, 17 to 33% of those might come back as being
Let's see. I'm trying to find another thing here. And well, in any case, I would be in favor of paternity testing upon birth.
Why?
Just
what if there's a false positive of 1 out of 1,000?
Yeah, I don't.
I would kind of understand the take if he said the moment you're split up and somebody has to put up money for child support or so. I feel like that would be a much more reasonable take, but just all the time, that's kind of weird, champ, a little bit.
I don't believe in mandatory medical intervention unless it's to prevent neglect or violence towards another human being. So just for this, no, that's why we have the presumption. The only person, if they're worried, the dad can make that call. Otherwise, there's no need.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Did we get another chat in, Nick, or? No, I don't think we did. Do you guys have anything else? I might have one or two more questions, but did you guys have any other topics you wanted to touch on? Or
I think people see our positions and can see which one makes the most sense of everything they believe about the world. So
true.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I had another question here. Let's see.
3 hours, not bad.
Timer moment. 1 sec, guys. Sorry, I lost my place in my notes here.
Also, if there are any Notion geniuses watching the VOD or who are in chat, why is it that sometimes the spacing between elements is not consistent? Or am I crazy? I feel like the spacing between this toggle element in this toggle element right here, this little black spacing, is bigger than it is on the other ones. And I can't tell if that's like a color artifact that's messing up, but the way Notion works, these should be treated the same. There is no break there or anything. I don't know why the gap appears to be so big compared to the other toggle elements. And I noticed that quite a lot. And I don't think it's just a color thing. I do think it's like something weird is going on. It looks the same to me. I swear to God, there's no way that it is. There's just no shot. Okay, so that's looking like 0.03. No, bro, it's definitely bigger. It's definitely bigger. Like I can sanity check it with my little thing here. It's definitely bigger, and I just don't know why. I am convinced that isn't like a color artifact thing. I feel like it's noticeably different. It's like twice the size of the other ones. Yeah, it's definitely bigger.
If a pregnant woman and her unborn child are murdered,
Measuring the screen instead of zooming into a screenshot. I mean, I paid for the calipers, so I'm going to try to use them when I can.
Do you believe the criminal should face 2 counts of murder and serve a harsh...
Maybe it groups every 6 items. No, bro, because look, now they're all even. It's not even no, I guess we can rule that one out. It's not a grouping thing. I don't know why it's doing that.
harsher sentence? I suppose I'll open this up to the both of you.
Well, I think more people have been killed, yeah. So it's to be more counts of homicide, yeah.
Okay.
And for Destiny's probably depends on how far along the fetus was. It was after 20 weeks, yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it depends on how far along it is, yeah.
Okay. All right. One sec here, guys. My notes are lagging. Human life begins by pressure. Sorry. Hold on. Let me play something appropriate for this. Hold on.
I'd love to hear your opinion on this at some point. You want to, or you want to just be the neutral, or you want to be the neutral moderator?
I'll just stay neutral.
That's fine.
on this one. But yeah. Okay. I think that's it. Did we get any chats or good on chats, Nick? Was there one more that came in?
Let me check that.
What are you looking for, Nick?
I think we're good.
Okay, cool. Last chance. Any final thoughts between either of you?
You think it might be a color thing? I don't know. I mean, we could test it. Let me move my OBS window out of the way. Well, I mean, we could go through and test all of these, but it doesn't appear that changing the color changes the effect. Yeah, I don't know. Here, how about I do this? How about I put this up here? Maybe because there's an enter here. Weird. Yeah, I don't know.
No, it was, I enjoyed chatting with you about this. And I think these kind of conversations, like these are really, this shows at the very least, this is an important issue. It's a weighty moral subject. And I think conversations like this, their goal, it's not to, no conversation like this can ever like end the issue. But I think it can encourage people, you should think about this kind of stuff deeply and think about it to have at least a coherent view and test it and refine it. So I'm glad at least this conversation with us, if it can get people to think about this, then I think it's a worthwhile discussion to have.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, very cool. All right, well, I think we are gonna wrap.
Someone said that, I don't know how true this is, but someone said that there was a Streamlabs question. So I just checked that on your...
Oh, yes, let me check. There is. Thank you for catching that. We have our final chat here from Jazz. Thank you, man, appreciate it. Conservatives want to ban abortion, but simultaneously oppose social services for children, lunches in schools, and socialized health care. Single-parent households have the worst outcomes in terms of education and criminality. As a physician, conservatives are disgusting. His words, not mine, don't shoot the messenger. This sort of almost echoes my question I asked earlier about the social Darwinism component, but if you'd like to address
the other problem
this.
with this stuff is it's such a monolithic binary way of thinking. Like, there are lots of pro-choice Republicans. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, like, we call them like Barry, when I grew up in Arizona, we call them Barry Goldwater Republicans. Like, there's a lot of people who are conservative who are actually, I would say, well, it's interesting. There's a decent number of pro-choice Republicans. There are a few pro-life Democrats. But it's a lot rarer to find a pro-life Democrat than it is to find a pro-choice Republican, sure, in my opinion. So I do think that that's just, it's a stereotypical argument there. There are a lot of, you can be, I would say being pro-life is a very liberal position because the goal of liberalism is to expand the sphere of human equality to as many people. Nat Hentoff was, he's an atheist. He wrote for the Village Voice. He did the Consistent Life Ethic. There's lots of people like that. So I would say that it's, so it's not a strictly political thing, but yeah, the thing is, like, I would say the hypocrisy goes both ways. It's bad if you only care about children before they're born and not after, but it's also hypocritical to only care about them after and not before. And I also think that it's lame to say you don't care about kids because you disagree with my policy. Well, people can disagree about what's the best way to help people. So overall, I think it's kind of a lame objection.
They have nothing to do with each other. Okay. I think like people will, the conservative answer is we do care about children after they're born. We just care about them in different ways because we don't think it's the federal government's responsibility to take care of children. We think it's community, churches, families. So it's
or you could say it is a federal government's responsibility. But the question is, where do we draw the line? Where do they go too far? What's too much?
Okay, got it. And you often hear, perhaps in the other side, you'll often hear them say, the other side's evil in this discussion. Both sides might say that. Do you think the other side is evil for wanting?
I think very rarely. It's incredibly rare that anybody's evil. I do believe that people share 99% the same kind of like moral intuitions. I think there's just a disagreement of factual matter.
I think I know what it is. There's a difference between going on a new line and creating a toggle than creating a toggle by like hitting enter and then creating a new one. I think that's what it is, which is dumb. And I doubt many people consciously know that that's happening and are using this feature, but maybe for power users that are even bigger power users than me, they want that. But that appears to be it. Like if I were to do this instead and then make this brown, now that's going to be fixed and I can transfer all these into there. And that fixes it.
Matter sometimes when it comes to understanding certain positions. Now, there are going to be some positions at the edges. So abortion, I think, and veganism are two of them, where there's room for legitimate disagreement because we're getting at the boundaries of like human knowledge, like what is a human life or what is a conscious experience. These are like the hardest questions to ask. But I think overwhelmingly for most things, we all agree. Like if we could show somebody that if we do this thing, all poverty will go away. If that thing was eradicating the government and living as an anarchist society, like left-leaning people should go, okay, well, if it really gets rid of all poverty, fine. And then on the flip side, if making the most socialized government ever that pays for everybody's stuff and everybody's happy and healthy, even a conservative should say, okay, well, if that does fix it, then sure, I change my position. But I think at the same day, we all want the same things. We just get there in radically different ways.
Yeah, it is it's a difficult question. Is the other side evil? I mean, only people can have the property of being good or evil. I think that legal abortion is evil. I think the act of abortion is evil because it kills an innocent human being who has a right to life. And I think that people who defend legal abortion have different levels of culpability for being immoral for defending this thing. Some people could be misinformed, mistaken. They have used their rational powers in a mistaken way to defend an awful position. Like I think Peter Singer defends an evil position when he defends infanticide. But I also think there's a difference between someone who says, you know what, I'm for abortion because even if it is a baby, I don't care. People should be able to do what they want. I would say that is appealing just to evil base instincts, and other people are defending this evil with mistaken rational arguments.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and I'm skipping all the promos stuff. I gotta go pee. Yeah, well, that was the VOD. I will keep it short so that future me doesn't have to listen to any more of me talking than he has to. Again, heading to Arkansas, in a few hours. So I will talk to you guys later, hopefully from there. And like I said, I'll try to work on some sort of like TLDR recording that I'll put out. That'll be like a nice little YouTube package. That way you don't have to hop between VODs and whatever. Yeah. So thanks everybody for showing up. Thank you for the VOD people who, still engaged despite missing the stream. I appreciate you guys. You're far more numerous, I would guess, than the people that are able to catch live. And yeah, let me know what's another conversation you'd like to see reviewed. What's some content that you would like to see. And yeah, definitely subscribe and keep an eye out for that YouTube video.